Okay, I think we're working. Always have to check. Yes, it seems to be working. Awesome. So let me just get rid of that. And we'll start in just a second. We'll give people a chance to join the live as well. So, yeah. Just want to check something. Here we go. Some creepy music. Seeing as it's Halloween, you've got to have creepy music in the background, otherwise it's not a Halloween themed live, is it? Okay. But yes, I don't want it too loud because I want to make sure you guys can still hear me as well. Right, I think I'm going to get into it because I am already running late as usual. I'm working on my time management skills, okay? So bear with me. One day I am going to be exactly on live at exactly 8 o'clock, okay? I'm working on that, but bear with me for now. But anyway, hey everyone, welcome to the channel and to another live stream. So good to see you guys here. Drop a message in the chat if you're watching live. Say hi. It's always good to interact with you guys. Yeah, as you can see, I am in costume. Okay. But yeah, Halloween. Exciting. I'm so excited for Halloween. I love it. It is actually like my favorite holiday. Like I said in my previous stream, I love dressing up. At least when I was a kid, I used to like go trick-or-treating like almost every Halloween that I could. And then yeah, where possible, I'll go to like Halloween themed events. But unfortunately, I've not been able to do as much of that recently. However, I do have plans this year, so I am looking forward to that. But yeah, for those of you who are new to the channel, I don't always look like this, okay? This is literally just for the Halloween themed stream, but welcome. Nice to have you here and to hopefully bring you into the community, okay? Hopefully you'll want to subscribe. And for those who have been here for a while, welcome back. Nice to see you guys. So yeah, this is just a bit of a fun Halloweeny stream. Okay, we're going to be talking about different horror films, those that were inspired by real life events. Also, we'll be talking about what Halloween is like in different places and what your plans are, what my plans are, etc. So it's just fun, really, nothing too crazy. And then at the end, we'll do like a bit of a Halloween themed tarot reading at the end where you need to know at this time, right? Especially considering that we're in Scorpio season as well. So it'll be interesting to see what comes up from the underbelly, you know? So, like I said, if you are on the chat, if you are tuning in live, drop a message, say hi, don't be shy. Engagement is always welcomed, okay? So, aside from the live stream, I do have something else coming up in time for Halloween, okay? Tomorrow there's actually going to be a giveaway that starts, okay? It's going to be more information about that. It's going to be posted on the community board. So I highly recommend checking that out tomorrow. The post will usually goes up in the morning, unless, I get distracted. But yeah, there'll be a post going up in regards to the Halloween giveaway, okay? So definitely check that on the community tab tomorrow to participate, okay? You won't want to miss that. But aside from that, I think we can get into our little discussion. So just to make sure, can you guys hear me? For those of you who are tuning in live, can you hear me okay before I continue? Because everyone is rather quiet today. So I just want to make sure everything is in order. It's the thing, I'm not sure if this music is actually causing any kind of interference with the stream itself, so I'm just going to check that. No, that's okay. Okay, cool. It seems to be working fine. That's good. I just have to check because I've had issues with that in the past, so I just wanted to make sure that's okay. Awesome. So let's get into it. So, horror films. I am actually a big horror film buff, okay? I've been into horror films since I was really young, actually. Probably too young, to be honest with you, but there you are. So yeah, I really like horror films. I like decent horror films. So it's a genre that I'm actually quite, knowledgeable in to an extent, okay? I wouldn't say I'm a nerd, like I wouldn't be able to give you all the ins and outs about various characters, but I do have extensive knowledge when it comes to different horror films, okay? So around this time, obviously, as you know, in the cinemas, they bring out a lot of horror films, okay? There's a lot of like slashers and paranormal type films, okay? So those are like the main films you're probably seeing online right now. Lots of slasher films like Scream, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, things like that. Then you have like your hauntings, which is like paranormal activity, The Exorcist, or The Conjuring, stuff like that. And then you have your monster movies like It the Clown, right? So yeah, I mean, there's actually a lot of different subgenres within horror itself. There's different types. You also have like sort of like those that go more into the style of the movie, like found footage and analog horror and stuff like that, right? So it's actually a very, very broad spectrum, and you get a lot of different opinions on what constitutes as a good horror movie and what doesn't, okay? Everyone has like their own individual preferences as to what kind of movies they prefer watching and what actually makes like something scary, right? Because at the end of the day, different things scare different people, right? And yeah, so I wouldn't say, I think whilst a lot of like horror fanatics will agree that certain movies are better than others, I think it's hard to say like, oh, that movie is not scary at all. It might not be scary for that person, but that could be terrifying for someone else. Especially when there's like movies that play on people's like phobias and stuff like that, because you can have a phobia of pretty much anything. So it's just interesting how one movie could be absolutely terrifying for one person, and for another, it's absolutely nothing. Like it's a bit of a joke, really. So that's always something I found interesting as well. Because but there's a few things I feel like are quite terrifying for most people. When I mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street, that was one that really affected me when I was a kid when I saw it, because I watched it at a sleepover that I wasn't meant to. I wasn't allowed to go to the sleepover, but I wasn't meant to watch the horror film, right? Because I was really young. And, I remember a friend of mine, her parents had like quite a few horror films, so she snuck a few over. And I remember we waited till quite late at night, and, my friend's parents were asleep, and we were like, have you got the movies? Have you got the movies? She was like, yeah, I managed to sneak them out, because that's the thing. Her parents wouldn't have noticed because she had so many like videos on her shelf. Yes, we're going back to the times of videos, just to let you know, age is showing. But yeah, and so she snuck it out of her backpack, and there was like three videos that she brought over to the sleepover. It was The Frighteners, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and Hellraiser. So that was also the first time I saw Hellraiser as well as Nightmare on Elm Street. And yeah, I can tell you, The Frighteners, it didn't bother me. It's like, okay, it was cool, I enjoyed it, it was fun, but I didn't really find it scary, more just like creepy in certain places. But yeah, it was fine. But then when she put on Nightmare on Elm Street, oh my gosh, all my friends were terrified, because bearing in mind we were really young as well. We were like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years old, so we really shouldn't have been watching it anyway. And and we were like, my friends were all hiding behind the pillows and cushions and stuff, because we were all like camped out in the living room. And I remember I just had like my cushion, it was my friend's cushion, and I had it there, but I didn't have it covering my eyes, and I was just like this, just like transfixed watching the whole thing, even though I was terrified. I saw everything, you know. My friends were mostly like this, hiding behind me. Like I saw everything. So that is one movie like that absolutely scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And yeah, especially the part where like he's puppeting the kid at the beginning, you know, by his veins and stuff. Or it just there's something about veins and stuff that grosses me out. And that really did. So, oh man, I had some horrible nightmares after that for a little while. And unfortunately, that's how my mom found out that I watched Nightmare on Elm Street when I shouldn't have. So I did get in trouble. She did tell me off, because even she was terrified of it. She told me that in the 80s when the film came out, she saw it in the cinema with her friends and she was absolutely terrified, to the point where she herself was having like reoccurring nightmares about it. So yeah, so it was scary for her, never mind me being 8 years old, so she was not impressed that, me and my friends sort of snuck out my friend's house and watched it as sleepover. But you do these things when you're a kid because you think, oh, your parents are just being mean, it can't be that bad, and you watch something, you're like, oh, actually that's really scary. So yeah, that was the film that sort of really creeped me out as a kid. But yeah, other films I've seen, yeah, not so much, that one definitely did it for me. It actually took me quite a long time to watch that movie again, because like even when people used to sing like the nursery rhyme in it, like 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, that I used to freak out. Like I used to hate it when anyone used to sing that song. So I would just be like, you need to stop singing that right now, otherwise I'm leaving. Because yeah, it really, really like creeped me out, that movie. So it wasn't until I think I was about 17, 18 years old when I got the entire Nightmare on Elm Street box set and I just watched it, to try and get over it, because it became almost like I wouldn't say a phobia, but I was definitely like, it was triggering for me, right? So I was like, okay, so I made myself watch it and it was fine, now it doesn't bother me at all. But yeah, like literally it took me like 10 years before I'd watch any of those movies again. So that one really did stick with me when I was younger. But other horror films, not so much. I remember The Exorcist, watching that when I was quite young. And I didn't get that far into it because like I basically was like sneaking out of my room one night and my mom noticed I was watching it because I got freaked out and she was like, what are you doing, go back to bed. So yeah, I didn't get that far into it, but I just remember like a scene where you could see the demon and it like really creeped me out. But yeah, but other than that, nothing really fazed me in terms of like horror movies when I was a kid or even as an adult. It's very hard for a movie to actually like genuinely unsettle me. I think there's only been one movie I watched. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was the nature of the movie is what unsettled me. Like not only was it like disturbing and creepy with how it's shot, but it was the subject matter. It was very close to home at the time because it was, speaking on like these entities that were showing up. I mean, obviously, it was a different set of circumstances because these were people that had experienced MK Ultra and they'd been put on hallucinogenics that was like it was like a very potent form of like DMT, and these entities would come and abduct them, and all of this scary shit was happening to people, and people would end up like all messed up. But yeah, but it was just like the little like signs and the little I don't know, just the atmospherics and just certain little things that they added really creeped me out because it reminded me of some experiences I had where I've encountered like entities and it was really like disturbing, So yeah, that film triggered me a little bit as an adult, but I don't remember what it was called. I'll have to try and find out. But other than that, there's not really been anything that's really fazed me. But yeah, what I will say though, in terms of like recent horror films, there's only a couple I've seen that I thought was actually any good. I think the top couple that I've seen recently that I thought was really good was that actually it was made by a couple of YouTubers. Talk to Me. Yeah, a couple of YouTubers actually created the movie, and I think they're based in Australia. It was an Australian movie. And yeah, it's really good. I don't want to spoil it in case anyone like is curious to watch it that hasn't seen it. It has got like a paranormal, like strong paranormal theme to it, but that was actually really good, especially for an independent, small budget film, right? Made by a couple of YouTubers. They did a really good job of it. So that I recommend checking out. I think that's actually on Netflix still. So if you get a chance and you're curious, you can check that out. Also, the last Scream film was really good as well. I really enjoyed that. I saw that in the cinema. Um, yeah, again, I don't want to spoil it, but it's really interesting how they don't just show like the gore and the actual, sort of chase, but it's also the psychological aspect is highlighted quite strongly in that one. So I highly recommend checking that out. They actually did a pretty good job of that movie. So I really enjoyed that as well. And of course, if you're into like your, gore fest, then there's of course, Evil Dead Rises. That was great as well. Very dark and gory, and it's less like ham than the Sam Raimi like versions, the originals. But it's really good. I enjoyed that as well. Saw that in the cinema too. So a few recommendations there if you haven't seen those, but yeah, they were really good. I mean, they're more mainstream movies, obviously, but well, maybe aside from Talk to Me, but that's getting quite a big push considering how well it's done. So yeah, but they're really good. So I highly recommend checking those out if you haven't seen it. I did watch what do you call it? Saw 10. Watched that the other day as well. It was okay actually. It wasn't bad. I wouldn't say it was phenomenal or anything like that. But as far as like, Saw movies go, it isn't the worst one, put it that way. But yeah, it was okay. It's not bad. So another one you can check out if you just want to, see a Saw movie, But yeah, so those are my recommendations. But I don't know. I mean, that's the thing as well, because over here in the UK, I mean, obviously it's different in different places, but here in the UK, Halloween is a thing. Like, it is a thing. Like, people have Halloween parties, Halloween celebrations. For example, this is actually part of my outfit that I'm going for a Halloween themed wedding, believe it or not. Yes, this weekend I'm going to a Halloween themed wedding. So, yeah, there is that, but which is a first for me, but there you go. Um, but yeah, Halloween is definitely a thing here. You see people going to parties or hosting their own parties. We have trick-or-treaters and stuff like that. It's interesting because it seems to be in waves. Like there'll be a period of time where you feel like people are not really celebrating so much, and then all of a sudden it's like become like more of a thing again. So it's been something I've noticed anyway. Because when I was a kid, like I said, like it was a thing, We used to go trick-or-treating every year with my friends, or with the neighborhood kids, or even like my cousins. I think I went with them a couple of times. And then, we actually had our own like Halloween parties. Like my mum used to really go nuts with the decorations. Like she pulled out all the stops when it comes to decorating the place for Halloween parties. She's awesome at that. And even still, she still decorates the outside of the house, a little bit inside, not so much, but now like she still goes ham when it comes to decorating the outside, so it looks really creepy. So, I was actually around for Halloween last year and I was shocked. She actually got a lot of trick-or-treaters. There was groups of little kids being taken around by parents and stuff, and even some like slightly older kids. So yeah, it was really nice to see that was kind of coming back alive again, because it's just fun and it's cute and it's nice that you know people kind of, I don't know, just have fun with it, really. I mean, that's what it's about in my opinion. But yeah, we actually ran out of sweets. Like it was lucky that the last group there was a little bit left for them because my mom was like, wow, last year I brought more and there was barely anyone that came, so I brought a little bit less this year, and look, we're completely out now. It's crazy. So I think I'll definitely have to have some sweets on standby just in case we get some around here, but because you never know, that's the thing, you never know. So But yeah, so that's kind of, what I've noticed, at least here. I mean, it's hard for me to say for sure, like over the last several years, because, I was living outside of the UK for quite some time. But what I noticed before is that, it didn't seem to have like so much, to it, right? People wasn't celebrating as much, but now I think it has kind of had a sort of re-emergence again. I see a lot of like posts and events and stuff for Halloween, so yeah. But I know in the US, obviously, it's huge. It's a different thing. I don't know if you guys noticed a change with that for those of you in the US, but yeah, I know it's definitely a thing in the US. But yeah, it's just found it interesting, just seeing how the interest changes over time. So yeah. But wow, you guys are awfully quiet. Either my chat is not working or you guys are absolutely silent, okay? Which is strange because usually, some of you like to chat, but it is dead quiet tonight. Wow. You guys sleepy or you're just not feeling very talkative today? But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of, what I've just noticed anyway when it comes to Halloween. So, the true crime cases that actually inspired movies, okay? There's actually been quite a few movies that have been inspired by true crime cases. Obviously, I would say more of them have been around the sort of paranormal side of things, so like hauntings and demonic possession and stuff like that. There's a lot of like those movies that are based on, true events and stuff, right? But there are a couple of cases where it's outside that realm, where it's more into like slasher territory. So I'm looking, so I'll give you examples of one of each, right? For example, you may have seen the film. It came out in 2005, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. So that was something I actually saw in the cinema as well, but back in the day. Yeah. So that film was, even though they changed the name, yeah, in the film her name is Emily Rose, hence The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And this was before like you've got a million The Exorcism of movies, okay? This is one of the earlier ones before it became like, a string of B movies that have a similar title, right? So yeah, that one was actually like a bit more of a major Hollywood film, but I don't think it did that well, not as well as they intended it to be, right? I think they assumed that it was going to do a lot better than it actually did. I think it was a bit of a flop, to be honest with you. It wasn't that it was bad, it's just a bit slow and it wasn't that exciting, to be honest with you. Like, it was a bit lackluster. There was a couple of moments where, it was unsettling, but that's about it. But anyway, but the real story is actually really tragic. So it's based on the story of Annalise Michael. Okay, you may have heard of her. There's been so many content creators that have referenced her over the years or created like a video based on her exorcisms. Okay, so she's like one of the really well-known sort of exorcism cases, right? So she was actually 23 years old, okay, when shit really hit the fan, okay? She was 23 years old. She was based in Germany, I think in Bavaria, okay? And she actually was known to mental health services, okay? She was already being treated for psychosis because they believed that that was, a mental health condition, a disorder that was brought about by, temporal lobe epilepsy, right? So they believed that she was having seizures because she was epileptic, and that's what led to her developing psychosis, right? As a disorder, not as having a psychotic episode, but actually having psychosis as a disorder. So that's what she was diagnosed with by mental health professionals, right? But the thing is, she was getting treatment for a period of time, but it didn't seem to be doing anything. Every treatment she tried, it was ineffective. So the family, being particularly religious, I believe Catholic, obviously considering what happens next. They believed that it wasn't something medical, it wasn't something mental health related. They believed that it was something demonic, that she was being oppressed and possibly even being possessed by demons or the devil, right? So they were more inclined to go down that route of things. So that's what they did, after these assessments and trying all these different treatments and meds and nothing really helping Annalise, and sort of helping the seizures or the hallucinations, the psychotic episodes, where she'd be acting out, lashing out, screaming, cursing, and just really strange behavior. That's when they decided to get Catholic priests involved. Of course, the Catholic priest had to get permission, and he received that permission to do an exorcism. Obviously, he must have, I feel like he did go for an initial, interview, okay? And then once he got the permission, that's when he actually started doing the holy rites and the exorcisms on Annalise. So that actually went on for a period of time, apparently, based on what I found out online. Okay, so I don't know how accurate this is, but apparently, all in all, over the course of the year that this was going on for, there was about 67 exorcisms and rites performed on Annalise. 67, can you imagine? This went on for the entire year, okay? So imagine feeling like you're being oppressed for that long and having to go through these lengthy rituals and exorcisms for a whole year. 67 of them, okay? Insane. But unfortunately, nothing seemed to be helping. Things were getting worse, okay? She believed she was possessed by multiple demons, including the devil himself. And every attempt that they made, it seemed like she was just getting worse, right? So instead of actually healing or feeling like, maybe things are improving, she was deteriorating. She was still lashing out, even towards herself as well as family members. And she wasn't eating, she wasn't drinking anymore, right? I've read conflicting reports about that. There was some that was said that she wasn't being given food or water during the exorcisms and stuff, right? So she was actually going hungry a lot of the time. But then there's other reports that say that she was refusing food herself, like she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't drink. So in the end, after that year of essentially mostly starving and barely taking any fluids in, she ended up dying, unfortunately, of malnutrition and dehydration. So that's really sad. So in the end, the medical field couldn't help her, the religious, the Catholic Church couldn't help her. It just felt like everyone was failing her, or they just couldn't figure out the solution. So yeah, unfortunately, she passed away, and 23 years old, so young, so sad. But obviously, the police got involved because there is now a death, right? The police got involved. And when they obviously saw the condition she was in, the fact that she was so severely dehydrated and malnutritioned, obviously she was not in good shape, right? There was some bruises and marks because of, the attacks where she was lashing out and also where she was being restrained. So her parents and the Catholic priest was actually arrested, on negligence charges, right? And they were actually convicted for this as well. I believe they didn't actually spend any real time in prison. I think they got convicted and charged for 3 years or something like that, but I don't think they actually served a sentence in jail. I'm not entirely sure, so you'll have to check that. But yeah, so they did actually, but they were criminally charged for it. And it's insane because in the beginning, the Catholic Church stood by the fact that she was possessed and she needed an exorcism. But then, of course, after the backlash and the criminal charges came forward, they actually kind of recanted, you know, their initial stance and statement. You know, it's like they retracted it and was like, oh, actually, you know, it wasn't a possession case. You know, it was obviously um, you know, misidentified mental illness. That's what they were saying. So they backpedaled basically to cover their own asses. That's pretty much what it seemed. And in the end, you know, it's sad. There is a young woman that just, you know, didn't get the right support that she needed, unfortunately. So that's actually a really sad one, you know. Because as well, you know, this wasn't recent. This was in the 50s that this happened, I believe, or was in the 70s. No, it was in the 70s, sorry. She was born in the 50s. But this happened in the 70s. So obviously, you know, mental health wasn't, you know, what it is now. You know, there's better treatments available. Back then, it was pretty rudimentary and pretty brutal, you know. So, yeah, they didn't have the therapies, they didn't have the medications that we have today, you know. So I don't know, maybe if it happened now, they would have been able to help her manage her symptoms and her disorder and, you know, the seizures a lot better. You know, there are options for that, especially when it comes to the epilepsy. But back then, I think it was a lot more limited. So it's just unfortunate that she didn't have, you know, access to those things that we have today. So, and I think as well, obviously, you know, having ultra religious parents, and them, you know, it's also hard because I can understand why some people were really angry towards the parents and thought they were mistreating her. But on the other hand, it's like if they took the medicinal route, the scientific route, and they saw that it wasn't working, you know, you can kind of see why they would think that, okay, it's got to be something else. It's got to be something spiritual, right? Because there is a spiritual link to these things as well. But you know, I just feel like, unfortunately, had she had the right treatment, maybe it'd be different. I don't know, you know. So it's just sad, really. It's just a really sad case. But yeah, it has been, you know, the story has been distorted a little bit. Obviously, the film is not exactly how things transpired, of course. It's like a dramatization and it's just based on that story. It's not, you know, word for word. It's not a documentary, right? Um, but yeah, there has been, you know, some um, sensational retellings of the story, but that's it basically in a nutshell, you know. So it is a case where, you know, they actually did get charged for negligence. So that's one story. Another story is based on the film. Well, the film Scream. Okay, seeing as we mentioned Scream earlier, the film Scream, right? The original one, the first Scream that came out in 1996. I remember seeing that on TV as a kid, and yeah, that whole opening sequence, you know, with the killer going after the babysitter, that actually creeped me out a bit as well. But I wasn't scared as such, but it was just like, I don't know, I found it kind of intense because I was quite young as well. But it just happened to be on TV, and, you know, I just caught a bit of it. But yeah, anyway, Scream, 1996 it came out. Obviously created by the late, great Wes Craven, okay? R.I.P., may him rest in peace, okay? Yes, it came out in 1996, but the case that it's actually based on happened in 1990. And that's what people don't know, that it was actually inspired by a real, like, spree killer, right? He would be considered a spree killer, I feel. Well, technically, he's a serial killer and a spree killer, I would say, right? And I'll explain why. Because in this part of the case, right, there are multiple victims, but it happens over a course of a few days, right? Um, there are a couple of days where there's two victims, okay? But like I said, rather than it just being like, you know, sort of one, waiting a while, doing another one, waiting a while. It's like very short succession. So that's why he kind of has the MO of a spree killer. But prior to these events, he had actually killed a family in a different state. So he is technically a serial killer as well. So anyway, it doesn't matter. So it's based on the Gainesville Ripper, okay? You may have heard of that, you may not, okay? Gainesville Ripper was Daniel Rowling. Daniel Rowling, he was actually, from what I found out, he was like camping out in a woods nearby, okay? Like he was just in the vicinity sort of thing, scoping out victims. Okay, so he had actually planned this. It was premeditated. I don't think he got to know his victims over time, nothing like that. It's just a case of he took the time to like a predator, just scope out, find a victim. Once he found one, he would tail them and try to, attack them essentially. So that's what happened, right? So these events took place over the course of a few days. What happened? It started on Friday, the 24th of August, right? Like I said, 1990 in Florida, Gainesville, Florida. It started with two female students. He broke into the apartment one night of these two students. I don't know if they were living together or if one was just a friend that was visiting. And I say that because one was on the couch at the time and one was actually in their bed. So I'm inclined to say that the one that was on the couch was probably a friend that was visiting, okay? So the two students they were university students, of course, was Christina Powell and Sonia Larson, okay? So when he entered the apartment, Christina was actually the one that was sleeping on the couch. He saw her, he looked at her, he didn't actually attack her immediately. They never mentioned this, at least just from the pieces of information I've read up on. They didn't mention why he necessarily decided to go upstairs, but I believe there must have been something that alerted him to make him feel that there was someone else in the apartment or in the house, right? That they weren't alone, because he went upstairs to Christina's room, right? Sorry, not Christina, Sonia, where she was in bed. So there must have been some giveaway that maybe it's not Christina's apartment, that she was just visiting, or there was at least someone else in the room. Maybe he saw another pair of shoes. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he leaves her. He goes upstairs. He goes to Sonia's room. He sees her sleeping. Now, he doesn't want to alert Christina because he's coming back for Christina. So he essentially somehow manages to wake up Sonia without her making much noise and quickly duct tape her mouth. And then that's unfortunately when he, takes out a huge knife and, stabs her to death. It's very much like Scream in that way, unfortunately. So he kills Sonia. He then makes his way back downstairs. Christina's still sleeping, which is exactly what he wanted. He didn't want Christina to hear what he had just done, let anyone get away. No, she seemed to be like his main target. They were both his target, but, he had a particular interest in Christina. And unfortunately, he did pounce on her, he attacked her, he assaulted her, and he killed her, same way he killed Sonia. So he's just murdered two students, right? But what's even more twisted about it is that he didn't just kill them and leave them there, just leave, I was going to say like a normal person would, but a normal person wouldn't be breaking into someone's house and killing him in the first place. But anyway, but then he decides to position them. So he actually moves both of them, right? And positions them in a very strange way, in quite a crass and rude way, actually. And it's obviously meant to taunt the investigators, the detectives, the police. It's obviously meant to be unsettling, right? So you know how, a lot of serial killers, they'll do things to like leave a scene in a certain way to get at police or to taunt them or to leave clues or something like that. It was basically that. So they did it obviously to rattle the police. So he positioned them in a certain way, actually took the time to take a shower, get the blood off, and then leave. So he was not under any stress. He didn't feel like he was being caught or anything like that, or there was any chance of him being seen. Like, he was so calm about it that he actually took the time to position them, take a shower, and leave. Like, it's mind-blowing. But anyway, that's what he did. So then after that, day goes, the night's over, the next day comes around, and he's already got another victim in mind, okay? And I believe that was another student called Krista Hoyt, right? So she was living by herself, I believe, but I think she was actually visiting her boyfriend that night. He actually broke in that night. He'd obviously scoped her out already, saw where she was living. She went out. He expected her to come home that night. He broke in. She didn't come home. But instead of leaving, he actually stayed there the entire night in her apartment. So he stayed there and waited for her to come home. She came home the next morning. And unfortunately, he did the same thing. He attacked her, he assaulted her, and then he stabbed her to death. The thing is with Krista's case, he decided to up the ante, okay, when it comes to the crime scene. So instead of just, positioning her body and leaving her there in the same way he had the previous two victims, he decided to actually dismember her, okay, and leave her head like on the dresser, I believe. So when the police came in, that's like literally the first thing they see. It's horrific, absolutely horrific, but that's what he did. So it's scary, things are escalating. The police are finding, that there is a series of murders happening so quickly. They're like, we need to find out who the hell this is, and stop this madman before there's more victims. And unfortunately, before he was caught, there were 2 more victims, okay? So a day or 2 after that, he ends up breaking into another apartment. You see, he has an MO, right? He has a pattern. He breaks in, he's like, attacks the person, assaults them, or just stabs them either way. Does what he wants to do with the body and leaves, right? So similar case here, right? However, there was a male and a female living together, okay? They weren't actually in a relationship, they were roommates. So this was a little bit tricky for Daniel because he was used to it being like a lone female or 2 females living together, which he felt was easy to subdue. And that's great because he's just targeting women apparently, right? So when there is a male presence there, that's a bit of an issue because the last thing he wants is to be stopped, for there to be some kind of intervention from the male, right? So he's having to switch gears and decides, okay, I need to subdue this man. I need to kill this man quick before she ends up, hearing what's going on and finds a way to escape. So that's his plan. So he breaks in as normal, but I believe that the male student, what was his name again? Was it Toby? Let me just check that quickly, because I don't want to say the wrong name. Manny, okay. So his name's Manny. The female student is called Tracy. So Manny, I think he's in the living room. He may have been in his own bedroom, but I think he was in the living room. Tracy was in another room entirely. Or she may have been the one in the living room and he was in his bedroom. I don't remember, but they were in different rooms. Okay, that's for sure. And so when he breaks in, he rushes at Manny. Manny's like, what the fuck, there's like this madman in the house and he's coming at him with a friggin' knife. So they actually, but Manny, he's not a pushover, right? Like, he's actually pretty strong. So he puts up a really good fight. So Daniel and Manny are fighting in whichever room they're in. And Tracy hears it from another room, okay? So she's like, what the hell? Like, she can hear the struggle. She hears the fighting. And I believe, if this is correct, but I believe Manny actually shouts out to her to hide or to get away, And so she does. She runs into her bedroom. She locks the door and she tries to hide, right? But unfortunately, at some point during the struggle, Daniel does subdue Manny. He does manage to overpower him and he stabs him to death, unfortunately. So after he's taken care of Manny, he decides to go towards his intended target, which was Tracy. So unfortunately, he goes to a door. He manages to smash it in, right? Smash through the door, and he stabs her to death, right? But it was shortly after that case that police actually found out who he was. Because if I remember correctly, they actually found, because he had a tape recorder. He was recording all his thoughts. He was recording aspects of the murder and stuff like that. Like, he was very proud of himself and what he's done and all of this. And so that's how they were able to find out who he was, right? And they found his little campsite in the woods nearby, right? So crazy. But yeah, so he was apprehended. Obviously, they could link him forensically to the murders, and obviously he got a life sentence. So yeah, crazy guy. And like I said before that, like these weren't his first murders either. It wasn't the first case that he was involved in. He actually had killed an entire family, like three members of a family. Like it was like a child, a grandchild, and I think like was it the mother or the father? But there was another adult. And yeah, like he murdered an entire family and then went on the run, went to Florida and then carried on killing people. Like it's crazy. So he was actually tried for that in the end as well, I believe. But yeah, so it wasn't his first time doing something like that. Obviously, he had some real issues. He was an unhinged individual that just decided to go on a killing spree. Like that's obviously something he just wanted to do, and he had very little inhibitions about doing it. So he didn't learn anything from that experience. But the thing is, though, apparently, when it comes to them questioning him about that family, he was really cagey and shaky about it. Like that did rattle him in some shape or form, but it didn't rattle him enough to stop him from going on to kill a few students. So yeah, there's that. So that's what inspired Scream, right? Because it was like on Scream, it was like a university campus, it was a university town. And these kids were being killed in their homes. I mean, obviously, these kids are at like school, but it's that sort of thing. In the film they're in like at least in the first film they're in high school, but it's a similar sort of thing. These students were at university, they were in their apartments, nearby, and yeah, this person targeted them in their homes, stabbed them with a huge knife, same sort of deal as Scream. So and there was genuine fear. That's the thing. It wasn't like, oh, people were a little bit concerned and they were just being, a little bit more vigilant. No, like the whole campus was like on lockdown. Everyone was terrified. People, literally, there was like a mass exodus of students. Gosh, if I can get my words out. There was so many students that actually just decided to leave because they were so scared, because there was a madman running around killing students. So of course, there was a whole bunch of them that were just like, fuck this, I'm going home. And they just left. I know they were even considering like, extending curfews and like, considering if they should actually send, students home for a period of time because they were that concerned. But, it wasn't that long. I think it was literally within like a week or 2 weeks of it happening that they were able to find him. They were searching everywhere. They had like law enforcement on full alerts, checking everywhere, everything. So, he knew like he wasn't going to get away with it much longer. So, and he didn't. He was caught. But yeah, crazy. So, I don't know. It's just mad. But yeah, that's the case that actually inspired Scream. So you can definitely check that out and find out more about that case for yourself. Obviously I don't remember all the ins and outs of the case, but that's kind of the general gist of it. Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy how like, reality can be crazier than fiction, and how often the two coincide. Like, this case that inspired Scream, but there was also a case where Scream was the inspiration for two teenage boys to kill their female friend, like, they recorded it, like it was a movie. Like, it's crazy. So I think a lot of the time people are quick to assume that, oh yeah, it's the movie's fault that, teenagers are doing all this crazy stuff because they're imitating what they see through films, games, things of that nature. But these things were happening before those films existed. It's just, people might be more inclined to emulate certain characters, but if it's within someone's nature to do something, they're going to do it regardless. So I don't like that whole argument that, oh yeah, it's games fault or it's cinema's fault for so and so going on to do certain crimes. Like, no, I don't buy that. There's plenty of people that watch all sorts of stuff and it never crosses their mind to do something like that. So yeah. That's my view on it anyway. But it's just crazy how, like, literally in that circumstance that it, you know, you see it on both sides where it was based on a real event and then a couple of kids were inspired by the movie. So there you are. But yeah, so there are a couple of cases that I felt like was relevant to, you know, the discussion. But it's kind of crazy how, yeah, there's just been so many instances where people have made films that are like, oh, it's based on a true story, and then you read the actual event that happened or what it's based on, and half the time it's actually much creepier than the film itself, you know. So there you are. But yeah, so that's that. Like I said, you guys have been pretty quiet on the chat, okay? So I'm just gonna leave the rest and maybe pull some quick cards for you for the Halloweeny season. But other than that, I think we can call it a wrap. So let's see. What is it that the collective needs to know over the Halloween season? What is it that the collective needs to know over the Halloween season? It's a couple cards that wanted to come out then, but they didn't come out. For the collective over the Halloween season. Okay, so we have Lady I can't even speak anymore. Lady Goddess, feminine. Okay. Why was I struggling to say Lady Goddess? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Seems to be one of those days, apparently. Maybe it's a good thing that you guys are quiet. Oh gosh. Anyway, tell me more. Ooh, we have Chalice. What else? Over the Halloween period. We have High Priestess. And we have Fire, Passion. Interesting. At the bottom of the deck, we have Hex, Banishment. Okay. Yeah, so that's the thing. I feel like if you have been dealing with any negative energies, okay, people sending you dark energy, trying to, you know, cause some kind of negative thing to take place or to bring kind of misfortune or to affect your health, affect your vitality, possibly to stop you from being in this fiery energy, stop you having drive, momentum, passion, interest, creativity, right? Being able to tap into those things, make you feel more lethargic, make you feel disinterested. I feel like all of those things are going back to sender, okay? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you are a high-ranking being. We have high priestess energy here, right? And it's like, you are here for a reason. You have work to do. You don't have time to be dealing with this nonsense. So this has been coming up a lot in the recent collective readings, right? That those who have been sending out these negative energies, it's all returning. It's all returning. And we have that here. Literally, any hexes, curses that were sent your way, that energy is being banished. It literally says it right here. It's going straight back to sender. And I've been saying it, right? The divine is not playing, especially when people are trying to attack the sacral and root energy of divine feminines and masculines, gifted, intuitive, psychic people, right? Divine people. No. Especially divine feminines. They've been targeted significantly in this way. Yeah. Trying to stop you from receiving love offers, stop you receiving your birthright, support, love, happiness, kindness, right? Empathy, compassion, stop you loving yourself, pouring self-love in, right? Taking care of oneself, nurturing oneself, receiving love, right? Being a conduit of that frequency. Possibly even trying to stop your fertility, right? For those of you who may be trying for a child or want to have a child, they may be doing fertility spells. That energy is going back, right? So I feel like, especially when it comes to the feminine attributes, This energy is being heavily protected. And I'm telling you, those who have been targeting the divine feminine or the feminine aspect within an individual, yeah, they're in serious shit. Okay? Yeah. That energy is going straight back. And I feel like a big reason why it's able to is because you're able to remain grounded, regardless of what they send out to you. You don't let it stop you from grounding yourself, from centering yourself, finding that zen, finding peace, right? Amongst the chaos. Yeah. So they're not getting away with anything, that's for sure. I feel like as well, it's like you're also releasing any energy that doesn't serve you. Anything that may have been karmic in a negative way from the past, you're letting it go. Whatever is truly emotionally fulfilling you, that's what you're embracing. I feel like you're also being your own source of emotional fulfillment, as well as being receptive and accepting of these frequencies, right? Yeah. And I feel like if you are open to love at this time, like say if you're looking for new love or you're just open to this frequency, that is available to you. Because like I said, everything that's been a hindrance, a blockage, anything that's trying to stop you from receiving, that's being taken care of. That's being dealt with. Yeah. And I feel like for a lot of you who operate more from the feminine aspect, you're going to feel like that part of you is undergoing a huge transformation. You may notice that your vitality is coming back in a significant way. You may notice that you have more energy, that you have more drive, more enthusiasm. You may feel more attractive. You may actually see yourself looking more attractive. You may find as well that you're more interested in doing things that really uplift you again. So if you did have a period of time where you didn't feel like doing certain things that you usually love to do, that energy is coming back. So you're going to start doing things that you love again, things that really light your soul on fire. I feel like as well, like if you are in a relationship or dating or entertaining a connection at this time, your sex life is going to drastically improve, okay? For those of you who are dealing with someone at this time, okay? But I feel like as well, you're kind of accepting the role that you have to play as a high priest, high priestess, as an intuitive, as a medium, as a psychic, as a healer, as a shaman, as whatever it is that you feel resonates with you, right? This is just about your connection with source, right? And your natural ability and accepting it wholeheartedly. It's like no matter how many times and how much people try to undermine you and what it is that you bring to the table, yeah, the energy speaks for itself. Okay. So awesome. So it really is just like the time, essentially. It's time for you to be in your element, okay, to be back in full swing. So definitely I feel like your sacral, your root chakra, and also your solar plexus is being activated in a significant way. Any blockages you had in those energy centers are being removed, okay? Those energy centers are actually being purified. So you're going to start feeling really good again, right? And especially, I'm telling you, with us being in Scorpio season as well, it's like, you're going to get your sass back. That's what I'm saying, right? That's what it feels like. Like, you're going to get your sass back. You're going to be like feeling good in your own skin. You're going to feel good about what it is that you want to do. Your creativity is going to be on point. You're going to feel like, you've just got your groove back. That's kind of the energy here. That's what it feels like. So I like it. I like it for you guys. So definitely embrace that. That applies for masculines as well. Like I feel like, after having to do a lot of heavy like soul searching and introspection and healing, it's like you're gonna start feeling like, you're on a level, you're grounded, but you feel like, I don't know, you feel more confident again. Like you've got that fire in your belly to get things done, to go after what it is that you want, that passion, that desire to create, accomplish, to connect, right? To be with the person you want to be with and not being afraid to, make your move essentially. So I see it on both sides. So that's awesome. Feeling like this Scorpio season is going to be very, very interesting. Okay. So that is it. So I hope, you know, whoever watches this enjoys the live, okay, that enjoys the message as well. Yeah, it was a little bit different from what I planned because yeah, it's been a bit dead unfortunately, but you know, it is what it is. Waves, it comes in waves, so I imagine people have just got quite a bit going on. But yeah, it's always good to connect with you guys anyway, even if I am just the one talking, but there you go. So yeah, thank you for checking out for those who did drop in and out of the live stream. Hopefully you could hear me okay. Hopefully everything was working as it should. And yeah, it was good to just do a bit of a test run with this costume. I will be having a lot more of the fake blood on me for the actual Halloween wedding event. But, you know, I didn't want to go full whack because this blood, it seems to stain the skin a little bit. And I actually have to go outside tomorrow. So I didn't want to, like, completely coat myself in it. You know, because, yeah, that would be a nightmare to get off. But if you hadn't noticed, if you were wondering who I am, right? If it's not obvious, I am going as Carrie. So that's the movie inspiration for this look. So hopefully you like it. But yeah, there'll definitely be more sort of fake blood here and dripping down my head for the actual event, which is pretty nuts to say that that's going to be what I'm wearing for a wedding. But hey ho, that's a Halloween wedding for you, and they did ask us to dress up. So there you are. So yeah, thank you so much for those of you who checked this out and those who watch after the fact. And yeah, I look forward to doing another live stream with you next week. That'll be going back to normal though, so I imagine that'll be a themed tarot reading, okay, less of a discussion and more of a lengthy reading. So definitely check that out. But for now, wishing you guys all the best. Enjoy your holidays, have fun, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.